You're drifting. Not in a boat, not even in a dream, just drifting. The air around you is thick, not with fog, but with the quiet hum of ages, a gentle vibration that whispers of stories long past. Stories so ancient they've shed their sharp edges and become smooth, like river stones worn by an eternity of flow. You find yourself standing, or perhaps more accurately, gently hovering on the cusp of a world that existed before the world you know truly woke up. The light here is perpetually dim, not the harsh glare of noon, but the soft, pearlescent glow of dawn that never quite breaks, or twilight that never quite fades. It wraps around you like a well-loved blanket, heavy with the scent of damp earth and the faint, sweet perfume of unseen blossoms. Listen closely. Can you hear it? It's not the frantic rush of modern life, the digital cacophony that usually fills your ears. No, this is something far more primordial. It's the murmur of water, endless and pervasive, the distant sigh of leaves in a breeze that feels more like a deep breath than a gust. You feel a strange sense of belonging here, a quiet understanding that this space, this time, is made for ease, for reflection. It's a place where the grand narratives of gods and titans are softened, rendered into lullabies, their epic clashes reduced to the gentle clinking of pebbles in a stream. And honestly, for a place meant to help you unwind, it's remarkably effective at making you feel, well, utterly horizontal. You've probably already forgotten what you had for dinner last night, haven't you? Good. That's the idea. You become aware of the texture beneath your bare feet. Not cold stone, but something yielding, infinitely soft, like compressed moss or the finest undisturbed silt. It cushions your every imperceptible shift, making movement almost unnecessary. Above, the sky is a canvas of deep indigo, speckled not with stars, but with a diffuse, shimmering dust that seems to breathe with its own slow rhythm. It's a sky that promises nothing but infinite repose, a celestial ceiling designed for prolonged stargazing. If only the stars were actually distinct. They aren't. It's more like a subtle cosmic glitter bomb went off eons ago and is still very, very slowly settling. We're here, on the fringes of what the ancient Greeks called the chaos, though not the chaotic, formless void you might imagine. This is the post-chaos chaos, the gentle, lingering echo of primal emptiness, just as the universe began to stretch and yawn into being. It's the sort of place where even the most ambitious, world-shaping deities might feel compelled to take a very long nap. And in this liminal space, where the very fabric of reality was still being spun, lived a forgotten goddess. Her name, if it could even be called a name in the way we understand it, was Eurybia. Or was it Eurynome? Ah, the joy of ancient texts and their delightful ambiguities. Historians still debate the exact lineage and portfolio of some of these earliest, more nebulous figures, often conflating or separating them like particularly stubborn pieces of primordial clay. For our purposes tonight, let's call her Eurybia, for the sheer satisfying sound of it. Eurybia was not a goddess of thunderbolts or fiery passions, not one for grand pronouncements or dramatic interventions. Her dominion was far more subtle, far more pervasive, and utterly essential to the world's burgeoning quietude. She was the goddess of the wide-flowing, of the deep and the broad, primarily associated with the sea. Yes, but not the stormy, angry sea of Poseidon. Hers was the expansive, tranquil ocean, the deep currents that move with an almost imperceptible strength, the vast, unwrinkled surface under a calm sky. She embodied the sheer volume of water, its patient, unyielding expanse, and the way it cradled the nascent world. If you wanted to describe her in modern terms, she was less an oceanographer and more the quiet, introverted librarian of the deep, meticulously cataloging every ripple and murmur. Now, it might seem a bit odd to associate a powerful primordial goddess with something as sedate as the flow of water, but consider the sheer unwavering dedication required for such a task. Imagine orchestrating the gentle, unending journey of every single drop, ensuring no river ever quite ran dry and no lake ever quite overflowed. It's a monumental task, often overlooked, like the person who keeps the office plan alive for years without anyone really noticing. Her power was less about striking down foes and more about sustaining a deeply underrated skill. Frankly, especially in a world just figuring out how not to unravel. Her domain in these early cosmic hours wasn't just limited to the salty depths. Before the sharp distinctions were drawn, before the river gods had their own exclusive contracts, Eurybia's influence spread to all waters that moved with a certain languid grandeur. And here's where our tale takes its particularly sleep-friendly turn. You see, the rivers of that nascent world, fresh from the primordial soup, were rather boisterous. They tumbled and roared, they crashed and churned, full of youthful exuberance and an utter lack of decorum. Imagine a toddler with an endless supply of caffeine and no concept of an indoor voice. That was the early rivers. And this, as you can probably imagine, was quite disruptive to the general atmosphere of quiet emergence that the universe was aiming for. So, Eurybia, with her inherent nature inclined towards calm and vastness, took it upon herself to soothe these unruly waterways. She possessed a gift, not of booming commands or flashy magic, but of pure, resonant melody. A song, not sung with a mouth and lungs as we know them, but emanating from the very core of her being, a vibration that resonated with the elemental water itself. It was the original shush, delivered on a cosmic scale. A lullaby, soft and deep, that persuaded the rivers to settle into their channels, to flow with a more gentle, persistent rhythm, to relinquish their youthful exuberance for the steady, hypnotic cadence we recognize today. It was, if you will, the world's first successful campaign to encourage responsible water flow, for the children and the sleep-deprived deities. As you stand here, feeling the ancient currents of quietude washing over you, allow yourself to sink deeper into this forgotten corner of myth. Let the gentle drone of the narrative become your guide. Feel free to adjust your pillows. Find that perfect spot of comfort. And if you're finding this even mildly relaxing, a quiet tap on that like button would be greatly appreciated. It helps us know these journeys into the wonderfully mundane bits of history are hitting just the right note. And tell us in the comments, if you're still awake, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there? Now, let's ease into the night's journey, one tranquil ripple at a time. You probably won't make it through this day, or rather, this night. Sweet dreams. The soft, continuous hum of Eurybia's song, though imperceptible to any but the most sensitive of ancient ears, now feels like a gentle background thrum within your very bones. It's the kind of sound that doesn't demand attention, but rather invites peaceful surrender, like the distant rumble of a train that only makes your bed feel cozier. You realize the air itself feels denser, richer, infused with the scent of damp earth and something vaguely mineral, a clean, almost metallic tang that speaks of freshly carved rock and newly formed valleys. It's the aroma of a world still finding its footing, still airing out after the grand cosmic redecoration. You begin to move, or rather, you are moved, as if by a slow, unseen current. You drift past nascent mountain ranges, their peaks still soft and rounded, not yet sharpened by the relentless chisels of wind and rain. They are like giant slumbering beasts, their flanks draped in primal moss, their valleys slowly filling with the very waters Eurybia was coaxing into polite society. It's a landscape of vast, unhurried unfolding, where geological time is measured in the yawn of a tectonic plate. And you thought your morning commute was slow. This makes rush hour look like a blur. The rivers now are noticeably different. No longer the chaotic, splashing youngsters of the primordial era, they flow with a measured dignity, their surfaces reflecting the muted light like polished pewter. You can almost see the echoes of Eurybia's song in their steady, rhythmic pulse. This wasn't a magic trick that simply stopped the water. It was a deeply empathetic persuasion, a soothing influence that guided the rivers to their destined courses. Think of it less as a spell and more as cosmic-level behavioral therapy with a very patient therapist. One such river, wider than any you've ever seen, spreads before you now, its surface so placid it barely seems to move. Yet, below, you sense the immense, steady power of its current. This was the legendary Okeanos, the great world river that was believed to encircle the entire flat disk of the earth, a watery serpent biting its own tail. It was the ultimate embodiment of Eurybia's influence, the grandest of her charges. Most Greek myths focus on the flashier deities, Zeus and his lightning bolts, Aphrodite and her. Well, her general Aphrodite-ness. But Okeanos, this gentle, all-encompassing river, was a testament to the quiet power of steady flow, a concept often overlooked in a pantheon obsessed with drama. It's like preferring the lead singer of a band to the unassuming, yet utterly essential, bass player. And speaking of bass players, the concept of a singular world river is a fascinating, slightly quaint relic of early Greek cosmology. They genuinely believed that beyond the Pillars of Heracles, the earth simply ended, and a vast, circumfluent river flowed eternally, separating the known world from the mysterious, misty realms beyond. It was the ultimate boundary, the ultimate moat, and frankly, a brilliantly simple solution to the problem of what's out there. Their answer: more water, but different water. This ancient belief in Okeanos also explains why many early Greek maps depict a circular landmass surrounded by this river. It's not that they were bad cartographers. They were simply working with a different set of foundational assumptions. Imagine trying to draw a map of the internet. It's equally circular and full of unknown currents, just without the fish. You'll also notice that despite being a primordial figure, Okeanos, the river itself, was often personified as a titan, the son of Uranus and Gaia. This is where the ancient Greek family tree gets deliciously, frustratingly tangled, like an old set of Christmas lights you've sworn you put away neatly last year. The line between abstract concept, natural phenomenon, and actual divine being was wonderfully blurry. Eurybia's relationship with Okeanos was particularly close, almost symbiotic. Her song wasn't just for the river. It was of the river. She felt its currents as extensions of her own being, its vastness mirroring her own expansive nature. It was a partnership of immense, silent power, ensuring the world's watery circulation remained perpetually serene. Without her, Okeanos might have been a raging torrent, a cosmic hydrodam disaster waiting to happen. Instead, it was the gentle, reliable pulse of the nascent world, a comforting, continuous sigh. One could almost say she was the cosmic equivalent of a really good, well-lubricated plumbing system. Efficient, quiet, and absolutely vital, but rarely celebrated in song and story. Until now, of course. The sheer scale of this task, the constant, gentle application of her soothing influence, meant Eurybia rarely engaged in the dramatic squabbles and power plays that would later define the Olympian gods. While Zeus was busy charming mortals and hurling lightning bolts, Eurybia was ensuring the rivers didn't spontaneously decide to change direction and flood an entire continent. Her job was less about making headlines and more about maintaining global hydrological stability. It was the ultimate behind-the-scenes role, the unsung hero of fluid dynamics. She probably never even had a statue dedicated to her, which, let's be honest, is a bit of a snub. There's a subtle irony in her forgotten status. Without her calming influence, the world would have been a far noisier, more chaotic place, perhaps uninhabitable for the very beings who would later forget her. It's a classic case of foundational infrastructure being taken for granted. You never appreciate the quiet efficiency of your internet connection until it goes down, do you? Eurybia was the foundational internet connection of the watery world, always on, always flowing, always calming. Historians, to this day, aren't entirely sure why certain primordial deities faded into obscurity while others, like the mighty titans Cronus or Rhea, remain central to the mythological narrative. Perhaps it was a matter of narrative utility, or perhaps the Thales simply preferred gods who engaged in more active, dramatic conflicts. Eurybia, with her gentle song and her focus on quiet maintenance, simply didn't provide enough fodder for epic poems. Her stories were more like whispered lullabies than booming declarations, easily lost in the clamor of a developing world. You feel a subtle shift, a change in the air that's less like a breeze and more like the turning of a page in a very old, very large book. The scent of water and earth remains, but a new note emerges, something slightly sweeter, tinged with the faint, almost ghostly aroma of blooming things. It's the scent of life beginning to tentatively unfurl, of the first brave sprouts pushing through the damp soil, encouraged by the gentle, unwavering rhythm of Eurybia's song. The landscape around you is subtly transforming. The rounded hills are becoming more defined, their slopes covered in a soft, downy fuzz of nascent vegetation. The rivers, now fully tamed, carve deeper channels, their banks lined with the first tentative fronds of what will eventually become lush forests. It's a world gently waking from its primordial slumber, stretching and yawning in the soft light, like a drowsy giant slowly becoming aware of its own limbs. You're witnessing the dawn of ecosystems, the very first green shoots of a world about to burst into vibrant life. And honestly, it's all happening at a remarkably relaxed pace. You could probably knit a sweater in the time it takes for a new species of moss to evolve here. As you drift along, you notice small, shimmering figures emerging from the mist near the riverbanks. These are the Potamoi, the river gods. Each one a personification of a specific waterway, each one now flowing with the gentle cadence dictated by Eurybia's influence. They are a diverse bunch, some appearing as youthful, strong-limbed men, others as more fluid, almost ethereal beings, their forms shifting like the water they embody. But they all share a common trait, a deep, almost reverential respect for Eurybia. They are her children, in a way, born from the waters she soothed, shaped by the rhythm of her song. These river gods, while less famous than their Olympian counterparts, were deeply important to the ancient Greeks. Rivers were not just sources of water. They were vital arteries of life, pathways for trade and travel, boundaries between territories, and often considered sacred entities in their own right. Each river had its own unique personality, its own myths and legends, and its own dedicated worshippers. They were the lifeblood of the land, and the Potamoi were their guardians, their voices, their very essence. They were the original influencers, each with their own dedicated following and a unique brand of watery charisma. One particularly striking Potamos catches your eye. This is Achelous, the largest and most powerful river god in Greece. He appears as a muscular man with bull horns, a symbol of the river's strength and untamed power, a power that Eurybia had gently but firmly channeled. Achelous was a major player in Greek mythology, often involved in epic battles and romantic rivalries. He even famously wrestled Heracles for the hand of Deianira, a contest he ultimately lost, resulting in the loss of one of his horns. It's a classic tale of brawn versus demigodly cleverness, and a reminder that even the most powerful river gods can have a bad day. The story of Achelous' horn is a particularly weird cultural tidbit. After Heracles broke it off, it was said to have been transformed into the cornucopia, the horn of plenty, a symbol of abundance and prosperity. It's a strange, almost comical image, a river god's severed horn becoming the ultimate symbol of good fortune. It's like turning a traffic cone into a champagne flute. It just doesn't seem right, but there it is. The relationship between Eurybia and the Potamoi, particularly Achelous, is a fascinating study in subtle power dynamics. While she held ultimate sway over the flow of the rivers, she didn't rule them with an iron fist. Instead, she guided them with a gentle, almost maternal influence, ensuring they flowed with a rhythm that was both powerful and harmonious. It was a masterclass in quiet leadership, a reminder that true power often lies not in brute force, but in the ability to inspire and guide. She was the original waterbender, but with a far more chill vibe. As you continue your journey, you begin to notice other forms of life emerging along the riverbanks. Small, skittish creatures dart among the nascent vegetation, their forms still blurry and indistinct, like half-formed thoughts. These are the first animals, the earliest inhabitants of this gently waking world, drawn to the life-giving waters and the promise of a burgeoning ecosystem. It's a testament to Eurybia's influence that even these creatures seem to move with a certain quiet grace, their movements echoing the gentle rhythm of the rivers. The air itself seems to hum with a quiet energy, a sense of potential waiting to be unleashed. It's the feeling you get just before a big storm, but without the storm. It's the pregnant pause before the orchestra begins, the moment of absolute stillness before the first note rings out. It's a world on the verge of explosion, but an explosion of quiet, gentle growth. It's the kind of place where even the most dramatic events unfold with a sense of serene inevitability. Historians still debate the exact chronology of these early mythological events, the precise order in which the gods and goddesses emerged, and the relationships between them. The ancient texts are often contradictory, filled with gaps and ambiguities, like a half-remembered dream. But one thing is clear. Eurybia played a crucial role in shaping the early world, in establishing the fundamental rhythms of life. She was the quiet conductor of a cosmic orchestra, ensuring that the music of creation flowed with a gentle, harmonious cadence. And frankly, she deserves a bit more recognition for it. The air around you continues to thicken, not with humidity, but with the sheer weight of time. The scent of blooming things intensifies, now laced with the faint, earthy aroma of decaying matter, a reminder that even in this nascent world, life and death are inextricably intertwined. It's the scent of a forest floor, rich and complex, a symphony of growth and decay played out in slow motion. The landscape is now significantly more defined. The hills have become mountains, their peaks sharp and jagged, reaching towards the soft, perpetually dim sky. The rivers, now mature and powerful, have carved deep valleys, their banks lined with towering trees, their leaves a riot of green hues, still muted and pastel, but vibrant nonetheless. It's a world that has found its form, a world that is beginning to teem with life, all thanks to the gentle, persistent influence of Eurybia's song. You notice that the light itself seems to be shifting, becoming slightly warmer, tinged with a faint golden hue. It's not the harsh, direct light of the sun, which is yet to fully assert its dominance, but a softer, more diffuse glow, as if the world itself is radiating a gentle warmth. It's the kind of light that makes everything look slightly dreamlike, as if you're viewing the world through a veil of golden honey. The river gods, the Potmoy, are now fully established, each one ruling over his own domain, each one a powerful force in his own right. They are no longer just children of Eurybia. They are independent entities, each with his own personality, his own quirks, and his own sphere of influence. But they still recognize Eurybia as their matriarch, the source of their power, the one who guided them to their destined courses. They are the original riverboat captains, each with his own unique style and a deep respect for a woman who taught them how to navigate the cosmic waterways. One particularly intriguing Potamos catches your attention. This is Alpheus, the river god of the Alpheus River in the Peloponnese. He's often depicted as a handsome youth with a strong, athletic build and a reputation for being, well, let's just say he had a very active social life. He was famously infatuated with the nymph Arethusa, and his pursuit of her is one of the more dramatic tales in Greek mythology. The story of Alpheus and Arethusa is a prime example of the Greeks' tendency to personify natural phenomena in rather colorful ways. Alpheus, in his relentless pursuit, actually followed Arethusa underground, across the sea, and emerged in Sicily, where she had been transformed into a spring. It's a tale of obsessive love, divine intervention, and the surprising interconnectedness of waterways. It's also a reminder that even river gods can have their awkward moments. Imagine the divine equivalent of a restraining order. This story also highlights a fascinating cultural tidbit. The ancient Greeks believed that some rivers could flow underground for significant distances, even across seas. This belief, while not entirely accurate in a literal sense, reflects a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of the water cycle, the way rivers can disappear into the earth and re-emerge in unexpected places. It's a poetic, almost mystical understanding of hydrology, a recognition that water is a force that transcends boundaries, both physical and metaphorical. The relationship between Eurybia and these now independent river gods is one of respectful distance. She no longer actively guides their flow. They are now masters of their own currents. But her influence is still felt, a subtle undercurrent that shapes their behavior, a gentle reminder of the harmony she instilled in the early world. She is the quiet, ever-present force that ensures the rivers continue to flow with a steady, life-giving rhythm. She's the cosmic equivalent of a well-respected, slightly eccentric aunt, always there with a gentle word of advice and a knowing smile. As you continue your journey, you begin to notice other forms of life flourishing along the riverbanks. The animals are now more diverse, more distinct, their forms fully realized, their behaviors more complex. Birds sing in the trees, their melodies echoing the gentle rhythm of the rivers. Insects buzz in the air, their wings shimmering in the soft light. It's a world that is teeming with life, a testament to the power of water to nurture and sustain. The feeling of potential in the air intensifies, now laced with a sense of quiet joy, a sense of celebration of the life that is unfolding. It's the feeling you get in a lush, vibrant forest, the sense of being surrounded by a symphony of life, a chorus of growth and decay, all playing out in perfect harmony. It's a world that is finding its voice, a world that is singing its own quiet song, a song that echoes the ancient melody of Eurybia, the forgotten goddess who sang rivers to sleep. Historians, even with all their meticulous research, can only offer glimpses into the lives of these early deities, the subtle relationships that shape the nascent world. The ancient texts are fragmented, often contradictory, like pieces of a broken mirror, reflecting only distorted images of the past. But one thing is clear: Eurybia's influence was profound, a legacy, a quiet, persistent force that continues to shape the world, even in its most chaotic moments. She is the unsung hero of the watery world, the quiet guardian of the life-giving flow, the forgotten goddess who deserves to be remembered. You find yourself hovering over a landscape that is now fully solidified, the soft contours of its birth replaced by the sharp, undeniable edges of a mature world. The air is vibrant, humming with the complex symphony of countless lives, a constant murmur that is both energetic and profoundly peaceful. It's the sound of a thriving ecosystem, like a well-oiled, incredibly intricate clock ticking away the eons. The scent, too, has deepened, a rich tapestry of earth, water, and the diverse effluvia of a million new organisms, from the delicate perfume of wildflowers to the robust aroma of ancient trees. The rivers below, the children of Eurybia's song, now flow with a powerful, almost majestic certainty. They have carved out their destinies, etching themselves into the very bedrock of the world. You see vast deltas where their waters spill into the burgeoning sea, creating fertile lands that beckon to the nascent life forms. These deltas were crucial for early human settlements, offering rich soil and abundant water. It's almost as if the rivers, in their newfound maturity, decided to put on a bit of a show, showcasing their ability to create literal oases of life. They were, in essence, the original landscape architects, and they did a pretty decent job, all things considered. Speaking of the sea, Eurybia's primordial domain has also expanded, becoming the vast, deep ocean that cradles the continents. While Poseidon would later claim dominion over its tempestuous surface and its more dramatic inhabitants, Eurybia's quiet influence persists in its unfathomable depths, in the slow, inexorable pull of its tides and the vast, tranquil currents that traverse the globe. She's the quiet force beneath the crashing waves, the deep breath of the ocean that no storm can truly disturb. She's like the reliable IT department of the sea. You don't notice them until things go wrong, but they're always working tirelessly behind the scenes. One fascinating aspect of early Greek thought was their concept of the thalassocracy, or rule of the sea. While this mostly applied to human empires like the Minoans or Athenians who dominated maritime trade, the underlying idea of the sea as a pathway to power and connection has deeper roots in the mythological understanding of the ocean's vastness. Before the concept of a global interconnected ocean, the sea was both a barrier and a highway, a source of sustenance and immense danger. It's a testament to Eurybia's foundational work that this vast, untamed expanse was sufficiently calmed for humans to even begin thinking about sailing across it rather than just perpetually clinging to the coastline. And here's a rather curious tidbit. In some very early, less prominent myths, the sea itself was said to have its own peculiar breath, causing the tides to ebb and flow as it exhaled and inhaled. It's a beautifully poetic, if entirely unscientific, way of explaining a fundamental natural phenomenon. Imagine the ancient Greeks trying to explain the moon's gravitational pull without a single telescope or a working knowledge of physics. Their solution? The ocean just needed to catch its breath. Honestly, it's not the worst explanation you could come up with after a long day of goat herding and philosophy. This era also saw the rise of the various nereids and oceanids, nymphs of the sea and ocean, respectively. They were often depicted as beautiful, graceful beings, companions to the great sea gods and goddesses. While Eurybia wasn't their direct mother in all traditions, many were daughters of Nereus or Okeanos. Her pervasive calming influence created the stable environment in which these more delicate sea spirits could thrive. She was the cosmic foundation layer, the bedrock upon which the later, more flamboyant marine deities could build their watery palaces. Historians still debate the precise hierarchy and interrelationships among these early aquatic deities. Was Eurybia superior to Nereus? Was her power simply an extension of Okeanos, or was she an independent force? The lines are as blurry and shifting as the ocean floor itself, often dependent on which ancient poet or philosopher you happen to be quoting that day. It's like trying to get a consistent story from a dozen different eyewitnesses who were all very, very tired. As you gaze across this thriving watery world, you can feel the quiet strength of Eurybia's legacy. It's not a power that announces itself with trumpets and lightning, but one that is woven into the very fabric of existence, a continuous soothing hum beneath the more dramatic melodies of the later gods. She ensured the world had its rhythm, its gentle pulse, allowing life to flourish in an orderly, if occasionally still surprising fashion. It's a profound testament to the power of consistent, quiet effort. The light around you has softened further, becoming an almost ethereal glow, as if the entire world is bathed in the gentle luminescence of a pearl. The air, rich with the sense of flourishing life, now carries a faint, almost imperceptible scent of metallic ore and warm stone, hinting at the emerging geological processes, the slow, patient work of mountains being born and minerals forming deep within the earth. It's the subtle aroma of deep time, the smell of eons ticking by with quiet, unhurried precision. You observe the earth beneath you, no longer simply a canvas for water, but a burgeoning entity in its own right. The landmasses have taken on distinct shapes, valleys deepened by the relentless, yet gentle, carving of Eurybia-influenced rivers. Plateaus stretch out, vast and silent, hinting at the potential for future civilizations to rise and fall upon their surfaces. It's a world maturing, finding its own robust solidity, a perfect counterpoint to the fluidity of the waters. It's like seeing a perfectly balanced ecosystem, where every element contributes to the overall tranquility, even the seemingly inert parts. The rivers, now ancient and wise in their flow, are also becoming centers of their own microclimates and mythologies. You see the early indications of settlements along their banks, not cities yet, but simple clusters of rudimentary dwellings, tiny specks of human presence drawn to the life-giving waters. This is the very beginning of human interaction with the natural world on a communal scale, driven by the practical needs that Eurybia's regulated rivers so reliably provided. It's the earliest form of urban planning, where the main amenity was wet stuff that moves. A major historical fact to consider here is the profound impact of rivers on the development of early civilizations. Think of the Nile in Egypt, the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Indus in South Asia, or the Yellow River in China. These cradle of civilization rivers weren't just water sources. They were the very arteries of early societies, providing fertile soil through annual floods, transportation, and a stable environment for agriculture. Without their relatively predictable, life-sustaining flow, human societies as we know them might never have developed beyond nomadic hunter-gatherer groups. It's almost as if Eurybia had a secret long-term plan for humanity, ensuring they had a nice, predictable water supply for their future farming endeavors. Here's a peculiar cultural tidbit. In some very early Greek communities, especially those reliant on specific rivers, offerings to the river gods often included cutting a lock of hair and throwing it into the current as a sign of devotion or a prayer for safe passage. It's a small, intimate gesture, a personal sacrifice to the immense, impersonal force of the river. Imagine sacrificing your perfectly good haircut to a deity. The commitment levels were truly something else back then. You definitely wouldn't see that trend catching on at your local salon. While the more famous Olympian gods would eventually dominate the human consciousness with their dramatic sagas, the quiet, persistent influence of figures like Eurybia continued to shape the fundamental rhythms of existence. Her domain was not about personal glory or intervention in human affairs, but about the bedrock principles of the natural world. She was the original architect of calm, ensuring that even as the world grew more complex, its fundamental systems remained stable and predictable. She's the unsung hero of global infrastructure, the one who made sure the cosmic pipes didn't burst. You begin to notice other subtle forms of divine presence intertwining with the landscape. Minor nymphs of springs and streams, dryads of the burgeoning forests, and oreads of the mountains. They are all expressions of the world's quiet, burgeoning life, each drawing their essence from the healthy, balanced environment that Eurybia helped to cultivate. They are the intricate, beautiful details that emerge once the grand, foundational work is complete. It's like the intricate embroidery on a finely woven tapestry, adding richness and depth to the larger design. Historians, despite their best efforts to piece together the fragments of ancient mythology, often encounter frustrating ambiguities when it comes to the earliest, most abstract deities. Was Eurybia truly a distinct entity, or merely an aspect of a broader concept of the sea? Did her influence wane as the Olympian pantheon grew, or did she simply recede into a more profound, less public form of existence? Such questions remain largely unanswered, lost in the mists of time, like faint echoes on a distant shore. The air around you has taken on a palpable warmth, a gentle, pervasive heat that feels less like a blazing sun and more like the inherent warmth of a fully vital, thriving world. It's the kind of warmth that invites you to stretch out, to simply exist, to let your limbs go heavy. The scents are now incredibly rich, a deep blend of damp earth, robust vegetation, and the subtle, wild aroma of creatures moving unseen through the undergrowth. It's the smell of a truly alive place, a place brimming with the quiet drama of countless lives unfolding. You find yourself observing the burgeoning Greek landscape from a new perspective, perhaps from the vantage point of a slow-moving cloud, or maybe just from the perfect, cushioned spot on a mossy bank. The rivers, those magnificent arteries of life, now boast tributaries that spiderweb across the land, feeding smaller streams and eventually coalescing into the grand ancient currents. Each bend in a river, each gentle curve, feels deliberate, as if a master calligrapher meticulously drew it into existence. This organic, interconnected system is a testament to the long-term success of Eurybia's initial lullabies, ensuring that water reached every thirsty corner of the nascent world. You could almost hear a sigh of relief from the parched earth, echoing through the ages. This complex network of waterways, meticulously maintained by the rhythmic hum of our forgotten goddess, was absolutely vital for the emergence of early agricultural societies. The Greek peninsula, with its mountainous terrain, relied heavily on these river valleys for arable land and consistent irrigation. Unlike the sprawling river plains of Egypt or Mesopotamia, ancient Greece's landscape demanded a more intimate, localized relationship with its water sources. It was less about grand sweeping floods and more about numerous, reliable trickles and flows. It was, if you will, the original distributed network, predating the internet by a few millennia. And here's a rather charmingly specific cultural tidbit. In some ancient Greek villages, it was customary to toss a handful of fresh wild mint into a river or spring as a small offering, particularly when crossing it or drawing water. This was believed to ensure the continued purity and generosity of the water source. Imagine the entire river smelling faintly of toothpaste. It probably kept the aquatic nymphs feeling quite refreshed, if nothing else. It's a lovely, simple ritual rooted in a deep respect for the life-giving flow. While the agricultural cycles and human settlements were beginning to solidify, Eurybia's influence remained firmly rooted in the unseen mechanics of the world. She wasn't orchestrating crop yields or guiding farmers. She was ensuring the fundamental possibility of agriculture by providing stable, predictable water flow. Her power was a deep, quiet force, like the invisible currents that steer a mighty iceberg. She was the cosmic hydro-engineer, ensuring the pipes didn't burst before anyone even thought about planting a grapevine. As you continue to observe, you might notice the burgeoning presence of other, more active deities in the landscape. Demeter, goddess of the harvest, would soon gain prominence, working closely with the fertility of the earth. Dionysus, god of wine, would eventually oversee the grapevines that thrived in the river valleys. But none of their domains would be possible without the steady, reliable waters that Eurybia had so carefully cultivated and tamed. She was the fundamental groundwork, the silent stagehand who ensured the set was ready before the main actors even arrived. Historians still grapple with the process by which some older, primordial deities receded from active worship, their roles subsumed or overshadowed by the younger, more anthropomorphic Olympian gods. Was it a gradual cultural shift, a deliberate retelling of myths, or simply a matter of different regions prioritizing different divine aspects? The answers remain as elusive as the source of a deeply hidden spring, sometimes surfacing in unexpected texts, only to disappear again into scholarly debate. The light around you now carries a soft, diffused golden quality, like sunlight filtered through a canopy of ancient leaves, or perhaps the mellow glow of a distant, unseen sunset that never quite descends into darkness. The air is rich with the distinct aroma of ripening fruits and grains, a scent of sweet bounty, underscored by the earthy, grounding smell of healthy soil. It's the unmistakable perfume of a world at its peak, a world that has finally found its lush and fertile stride. You are now immersed in a world that feels incredibly vibrant, yet retains a profound tranquility. The rivers, having long since settled into their serene rhythms, now act as silent highways for the gentle flow of life. You can almost feel their steady pulse beneath your feet, a deep, comforting vibration that resonates with the very heartbeat of the planet. These are the same rivers that Eurybia sang to sleep countless eons ago. Now mature and confident, their currents a testament to her enduring influence. They've gone from unruly toddlers to stately wise elders, all thanks to a consistent, soothing presence. This era saw the flourishing of Greek city-states, each often founded near a reliable water source. The rise of Athens, Corinth, and Sparta, for instance, was deeply intertwined with their access to fresh water and navigable routes. The consistency of these water systems, initially coaxed into order by Eurybia, allowed for sustained populations, specialized labor, and the eventual development of complex societies. It's almost as if the rivers, having been thoroughly soothed, decided to become excellent, dependable neighbors. They never complained about the noise, either. A particularly charming, if slightly odd, cultural tidbit emerges here. In many ancient Greek homes, particularly in rural areas, there would be a small, unadorned water basin near the entrance, where travelers or guests were offered a splash of cool, fresh water upon arrival. This was not just for hygiene, but also a small, ritualistic purification and a symbol of hospitality. It was a subtle acknowledgement of the life-giving essence of water, a quiet blessing from the unseen forces that governed its flow. Think of it as the original hand sanitizer station, but with significantly more spiritual gravitas and a lot less alcohol. While the Olympian gods had long since ascended to their dramatic, often quarrelsome, rule from Mount Olympus, Eurybia remained in the deeper, more foundational layers of existence. She was not concerned with human squabbles or divine politics. Her domain was the underlying stability, the cosmic hum that allowed everything else to function. She was the original quiet quitting, but in a way that actually ensured everything kept running smoothly. Her power was deeply embedded, like the silent root system of a vast ancient forest. You might observe the emergence of heroes and heroines in this world, their epic tales unfolding against a backdrop of stable rivers and fertile lands. Jason sailed the seas, guided by the currents. Heracles performed his labors near mighty rivers. Odysseus journeyed across the wide ocean. None of their adventures, their dramatic confrontations, or their triumphs would have been possible without the fundamental, reliable environment that Eurybia, the forgotten goddess, had so patiently cultivated. She was the silent stage upon which all the dramatic plays of mythology were performed. Historians often struggled to fully grasp the significance of these earliest, more abstract deities because their roles were so fundamental, so taken for granted. They were less about narrative conflict and more about establishing the very conditions for existence. How does one tell a compelling story about consistent water flow without it sounding like an annual report on hydrology? This inherent boringness, ironically, is part of why Eurybia faded from the popular consciousness. Her success was her undoing, in a narrative sense. The air around you now carries a distinct tang of salt, sharper than before, mixed with the rich, earthy scent of coastal lands. You feel a gentle, almost imperceptible sway, as if the very ground beneath you is breathing with the rhythm of distant tides. The light has brightened slightly, becoming a soft, pearly glow that illuminates the vast expanse of the sea, now a familiar, comforting presence on the horizon. It's the kind of light that makes you want to squint, then slowly close your eyes, content in its gentle warmth. You are now positioned over the sun-drenched coastlines of what will one day be the Mediterranean, a basin cradled by the continents, constantly fed by the rivers Eurybia had so carefully soothed. The sea, no longer just a vast formless expanse, is teeming with life, from the smallest darting fish to the larger, more ancient marine creatures that navigate its depths. Its surface, while occasionally ruffled by gentle breezes, largely retains the profound tranquility instilled by the forgotten goddess. It's a vast liquid mirror reflecting the soft sky, a canvas of calm that invites endless contemplation. You could practically fall asleep just watching the tiny lazy waves lap at the shore. This tranquil sea was crucial for the development of early Greek civilization, allowing for safe passage between isolated communities. Maritime trade became the lifeblood of the Aegean world, connecting distant islands and city-states, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. Without the relatively calm and navigable waters, travel would have been far more perilous, and the vibrant interconnections that defined ancient Greek society might never have fully blossomed. It's almost as if the sea, having had a good long nap, was now fully prepared to handle the bustling traffic of human ambition. Here's a wonderfully specific, if slightly superstitious, cultural tidbit. Ancient Greek sailors, before embarking on a long journey, would sometimes pour a small libation of wine into the sea as an offering to Poseidon. Yes, but also to other less prominent sea deities or even the general spirit of the ocean itself. This was often done from the bow of the ship, with a prayer for fair winds and a calm passage. It's a touching gesture, a recognition that even the most skilled mariners were ultimately at the mercy of the vast, unpredictable forces of nature. Imagine pouring out a perfectly good glass of wine just for good luck. Some traditions are simply too expensive to maintain in modern times. While Poseidon held the flashy title of Lord of the Sea, commanding storms and earthquakes, Eurybia's influence continued to underscore the sea's more fundamental, life-sustaining aspects. Its deep, steady currents, its vast, nourishing expanse, and its ability to act as a gentle, reliable thoroughfare. She was the quiet, constant pulse beneath the dramatic theatrics of the Olympian gods, the uncelebrated engineer of marine stability. She was the ocean's gentle hum, the consistent background noise that allowed all the other, louder notes to be played. You might observe the early forms of Greek ships, sleek and simple, venturing tentatively from the shore. These aren't the mighty triremes of later eras, but smaller, more modest vessels, guided by instinct and the patient, predictable currents. Their journeys, though short by modern standards, were monumental steps for humanity, gradually expanding the known world and fostering a sense of connection between disparate communities. It's a testament to the fact that even the most epic voyages begin with a single calm ripple. Historians still debate the precise balance of power and influence between the primordial deities and the later Olympian pantheon. Did the older gods simply fade as human consciousness evolved, favoring more relatable anthropomorphic figures? Or did they consciously retreat, content to maintain the cosmic order from the shadows, leaving the drama to their more flamboyant descendants? The exact nature of this divine succession remains a fertile ground for scholarly speculation, often as murky as the deepest ocean trench. The air around you has become remarkably still, hushed, as if the entire world is holding its breath in a collective, ancient slumber. The salty tang has faded, replaced by the deep, resonant aroma of ancient stone, cool and profound, tinged with a faint, almost metallic smell of deep earth and unseen caverns. It's the scent of the deep places, the subterranean realms that lie beneath the fertile surface, a reminder of the foundational forces at play. You are now in a space that feels both vast and incredibly intimate, a realm of quiet contemplation beneath the bustling surface of the world. While the rivers continue their steady flow and the seas their gentle swell, Eurybia's influence begins to subtly shift, delving deeper, moving beyond the mere surface currents. Her song, no longer just coaxing rivers to sleep, now resonates with the very tectonic plates, with the deep, slow movements that shape continents and create the quiet chambers beneath the earth. It's the ultimate deep sleep meditation, performed on a planetary scale. You could probably hear the rocks snoring. This unseen, Subterranean aspect of Eurybia's influence is crucial for understanding the stability of the terrestrial world. While Poseidon might unleash earthquakes from the sea, and Hades rules the underworld, Eurybia's quieter power ensured the structural integrity of the earth itself, preventing constant chaotic seismic activity. Her song, resonating with the earth's inner core, was the original geological stabilizer, ensuring that mountains rose gradually and fault lines didn't just spontaneously decide to redecorate the landscape every Tuesday. Here's a rather obscure, almost forgotten cultural tidbit. In some very remote, ancient Greek cults, particularly those dedicated to chthonic deities or earth spirits, there were rituals involving listening to the voice of the earth through cracks in rocks or by pressing one's ear to the ground. These were believed to be faint echoes of the primordial sounds that shaped the world, perhaps even the lingering vibrations of Eurybia's ancient earth-soothing song. Imagine doing that during a particularly boring family gathering. "Oh, excuse me, I just need to listen to the planet breathe." While Eurybia was primarily associated with the sea and broad waters, her primordial nature meant her influence extended to all fundamental aspects of the world's formation. Before the specific roles were carved out for Gaia or Uranus, there were less defined, more elemental forces at play. Eurybia, with her essence of wide-flowing and broad, encompassed not just the horizontal spread of water, but also the deep, broad currents within the earth itself. She was the original conceptual architect, laying down the universal foundational principles. You might notice the faint glimmer of precious metals and minerals deep within the earth, slowly forming over millennia. These are the treasures that would later drive human ambition and conflict, yet their very existence is owed to the long, patient geological processes subtly overseen by the pervasive, calming influence of our forgotten goddess. She ensured the earth was stable enough for these riches to coalesce, literally setting the stage for future gold rushes and diamond digs. She was, in essence, the cosmic mineralogist, ensuring everything was appropriately stratified. Historians often find themselves in a bit of a quandary when trying to categorize these most ancient, often abstract deities. Were they truly distinct personalities, or simply poetic personifications of natural forces? The distinction becomes blurred, almost meaningless, when discussing entities that existed before the world itself had fully taken shape. It's like trying to diagram the sentence, "existence is." Good luck with that. The air around you now feels subtly cooler, carrying a crisp, almost crystalline quality, laced with the scent of damp stone and the faint, sweet aroma of mist-laden forests. The light remains soft and diffused, but with an added luminescence, as if moonlight has permeated the very atmosphere. You find yourself hovering near the edge of ancient caverns, where the world's deep breath is audible in the slow drip of water and the distant echo of unseen currents. It's the kind of place where time itself seems to slow down, pooling in the quiet shadows. You could probably hear your own thoughts reverberating if you listened closely enough, which, on second thought, might be counterproductive to the whole sleep thing. You are now in a realm where Eurybia's primordial influence intertwines with the very bedrock of the land, touching upon the genesis of springs and subterranean rivers. While the great surface rivers flow with their well-established rhythms, countless hidden waterways snake through the earth's crust, emerging as clear, cold springs from mountainsides or welling up in mysterious grottos. These are the veins and capillaries of the world, kept pure and flowing by the persistent, if now subliminal, resonance of Eurybia's song. She ensured that even the most obscure trickle found its way, patiently guiding the water through labyrinthine passages. She was the original cosmic plumber, without the exorbitant rates or the inconvenient timing. This network of springs and subterranean flows was incredibly significant to ancient Greek life. Many major sanctuaries and oracle sites like Delphi were built around sacred springs, believed to possess prophetic or healing powers. The consistency and purity of these springs, which flowed reliably through all seasons, were seen as divine blessings, a direct connection to the underlying forces of the earth. It wasn't just about quenching thirst. It was about spiritual sustenance, about a connection to something ancient and profound. It's almost as if the very act of drinking from these springs allowed one to absorb a little bit of that ancient calm that Eurybia had instilled. Here's a rather curious, and perhaps slightly unnerving, cultural tidbit. In some very remote rural areas of ancient Greece, particularly those near mysterious, deep springs or dark caves, there were sometimes rituals involving leaving small, often crude, effigies or woven baskets filled with grain near the water source as an offering. These weren't necessarily for a named Olympian, but for the nameless powers of the earth and water that resided there, a sort of general insurance policy against drought or misfortune. It's like leaving a little thank you note for the benevolent, unseen forces keeping your well full. Hopefully, they accepted the grain. Eurybia, in her deeper, more fundamental aspect, was the quiet guarantor of this subterranean flow. While nymphs like the Naiads would later become the visible spirits of these springs, Eurybia was the foundational force ensuring the water's very existence and purity. She wasn't dancing in the grottos. She was meticulously overseeing the hydrologic cycle from the inside out, making sure every drop had a path to follow, even if it was underground. She was the subterranean conductor, ensuring the silent symphony of the earth's veins and arteries continued uninterrupted. You might notice the faint, almost imperceptible gleam of moisture on cave walls, the slow, rhythmic drip of water accumulating in crystalline pools. These are the earliest stages of stalactite and stalagmite formation, geological processes that unfold over countless millennia, shaped by the steady, unhurried flow of water. It's a reminder that even the most magnificent, unchanging structures are often built drop by patient drop, guided by the very forces Eurybia embodied. It's a testament to the long game, a concept often lost in the quick-fix modern world. Historians, in their tireless efforts to reconstruct the complex tapestry of Greek mythology, often find themselves encountering contradictions and inconsistencies regarding the roles of these most ancient deities. Was Eurybia's influence truly separate from that of Gaia, the Earth Mother? Or were they two facets of a single, encompassing primordial force? The lines blur at this fundamental level of existence, much like the gentle merging of subterranean streams into a single, profound river. It's a question that continues to echo in the quiet halls of academia. The air around you has shifted again, now carrying a delicate, almost metallic tang reminiscent of ozone just before a gentle rain, or the clean scent of ancient polished bronze. The light, though still soft and diffused, seems to carry a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, as if light itself is being filtered through the gentle vibrations of Eurybia's lingering song. You find yourself hovering above nascent metallurgical sites, where early humans are beginning to experiment with the Earth's hidden treasures, drawing sustenance and tools from the very depths Eurybia helped stabilize. It's the smell of progress, but slow, painstaking progress, measured in the gentle tapping of rudimentary tools. You could probably watch a single lump of ore being smelted into a useful object and still have time for a full 8-hour nap. You observe early human settlements, no longer just clusters of dwellings, but nascent communities, showing the first signs of specialization and rudimentary industry. Near the rivers, along the coast, and now, importantly, near sources of metal ore, the patterns of life are becoming more complex. The rivers, with their predictable flow, provided not just water for drinking and farming, but also the force for simple mills and the means of transport for raw materials and finished goods. This quiet consistency, initiated by Eurybia, was the hidden engine of early technological advancement. She made sure the cosmic conveyor belt kept running smoothly. This slow, methodical development of metallurgy, particularly the transition from copper to bronze, was a major historical fact that revolutionized ancient societies. The Bronze Age, characterized by the widespread use of bronze for tools, weapons, and art, led to significant advancements in warfare, agriculture, and craftsmanship. This was only possible because early humans could reliably access and process ores, which were found deep within the earth, a domain subtly influenced by the stability and geological consistency Eurybia had helped to establish. It's a classic example of how fundamental, underlying conditions enable dramatic, visible change. You can't have fancy bronze swords if the earth keeps shaking itself apart. Here's a rather earthy and slightly humorous cultural tidbit. In some very ancient Greek mining communities, it was not uncommon for miners to offer small, unworked pieces of ore, particularly shiny or interesting ones, back to the earth, tossing them into the deepest part of the mine or a nearby spring. This was done as a gesture of respect, or perhaps appeasement to the chthonic powers for taking from the earth's bounty. It's like returning a particularly nice rock to your backyard after you've admired it, but with more solemnity and a vague fear of divine retribution. Imagine trying to explain that to a modern mining corporation. Oh, we just need to give back to the planet. Here's a pebble. While Hephaestus, the god of smiths and volcanoes, would later oversee the fiery aspects of metallurgy, Eurybia's primordial influence lay in the Earth's internal stability, ensuring the conditions for these ores to form and remain accessible. She was the quiet architect of geological processes, the one who made sure the Earth's valuable resources were patiently gathered in predictable veins, rather than scattered chaotically. She was the original project manager for mineral deposition, ensuring everything was exactly where it was supposed to be, deep underground. You might observe the flickering glow of early smelters, rudimentary furnaces where ore is heated to extract metals. The rhythmic clang of early hammers against metal echoes softly, a sound of nascent industry. Yet, even this activity, so seemingly disruptive, happens against a backdrop of profound quietude, a testament to the enduring calm that permeates the very fabric of this world. It's a dance between human ingenuity and ancient stability, where one cannot exist without the other. Historians often ponder the psychological impact of these early technological shifts on human consciousness. Did the ability to work metal, to transform the Earth's raw materials, diminish the perceived power of the older, more elemental deities? Or did it simply recontextualize their influence, shifting focus from raw creation to the stable conditions that allowed human innovation to thrive? The answers are as complex and multifaceted as the ores themselves, shimmering with possibilities, but always just out of definitive reach. The air around you now feels subtly warmer, infused with the faint, sweet scent of smoke from countless hearths, mingling with the rich aroma of baking bread and the distant bleating of flocks. The light, still soft and diffuse, carries a warm, golden cast, like the glow of ancient oil lamps illuminating a quiet domestic scene. You find yourself hovering over settled agrarian landscapes, where fields stretch in ordered patterns, and the rhythm of human life has truly begun to synchronize with the ancient cycles of nature, cycles subtly orchestrated by Eurybia's primordial calm. It's the smell of enduring domesticity, a scent that speaks of generations living in predictable harmony. And yes, it smells vaguely like a very old, very cozy bakery. You observe the development of early Greek agriculture, a careful dance between human ingenuity and the whims of nature. The rivers, with their now predictable annual flows, provided the essential irrigation, while the fertile plains, gently shaped and nourished by water, yielded bountiful harvests. This stable food supply, a direct consequence of the world's initial soothing, allowed communities to grow beyond mere subsistence. People could specialize, create art, tell stories, and even occasionally argue about philosophy. All thanks to the consistent availability of wheat and grapes, which in turn relied on reliably flowing water. Eurybia truly was the original agricultural consultant, albeit a very quiet, very ethereal one. This period saw the rise of settled village life, a major historical fact that marked a significant departure from nomadic existence. The ability to cultivate land consistently and store surplus food led to permanent dwellings, larger populations, and the beginnings of social structures beyond the immediate family unit. These agricultural communities, flourishing near dependable water sources, were the building blocks for the future city-states. It's almost as if Eurybia, in her vast wisdom, simply wanted everyone to stop running around so much and settle down for a nice long rest. Here's a charmingly simple, yet profound, cultural tidbit. In some ancient Greek farming communities, particularly before planting or after a successful harvest, it was customary to walk a small, symbolic perimeter around the field, carrying a small jug of water from the nearest well or stream. As they walked, they would gently sprinkle the water on the earth, offering a quiet prayer for fertility and abundance, and to acknowledge the life-giving power of the earth and water. It's like giving your garden a little preemptive blessing, hoping for the best, and subtly reminding the universe that you've done your part. While Demeter, goddess of agriculture, held the more prominent role in overseeing crops and fertility, Eurybia's fundamental influence remained in the consistent, reliable water cycles. Demeter worked with the bounty of the earth, but Eurybia ensured the conditions for that bounty were stable. She was the original climate control system for the natural world, setting the baseline for all subsequent growth. She was the quiet force behind every successful harvest, the unsung hero of breakfast cereal. You might notice the subtle shift in human interaction with the natural world. While still reverent, there's a growing sense of mastery, a burgeoning understanding of how to work with the environment to achieve desired outcomes. The fear of chaotic, unpredictable nature begins to recede, replaced by a more confident, if still humble, engagement. This shift was largely enabled by the predictable patterns of the natural world. Patterns initially set into motion by Eurybia's calming influence. She made the world legible, understandable, and therefore manageable. Historians often ponder the psychological impact of this transition from a chaotic, primal world to a more ordered, agrarian one. Did the human mind begin to forget the deeper, more abstract forces once they could manipulate the surface? Was the diminishing prominence of primordial deities like Eurybia a reflection of humanity's growing confidence in its own agency, or simply a natural narrative progression as the world became more complex? Such questions continue to drift through academic discourse, as elusive as a wisp of morning fog. The air around you now carries the faint, complex scent of human activity: wood smoke, cured leather, the tang of metal, and the distant, almost imperceptible murmur of human voices. The light has brightened further, becoming a clear, steady illumination, like the unwavering light of 1,000 burning torches in a quiet city square. You find yourself drifting over early Greek cities, not the grand metropolises of later eras, but organized clusters of stone and timber, their streets winding gently, their public spaces beginning to take shape. It's the smell of human ingenuity and communal effort, a subtle, persistent hum of civilization rising from the earth. And yes, it smells faintly of ambition, mixed with a healthy dose of lingering wood smoke. You observe the burgeoning complexity of urban life, a marvel built upon the bedrock of predictable resources. The rivers, now fully integrated into the urban fabric, served as city arteries, providing fresh water, disposing of waste, and acting as convenient thoroughfares for the movement of people and goods. The very layout of these early cities often followed the natural contours of the land and the flow of water, a subtle acknowledgement of the forces that shaped their very existence. This enduring stability, ultimately rooted in Eurybia's primordial calming, allowed these intricate human endeavors to flourish without constantly contending with chaotic environmental shifts. She was the quiet urban planner, ensuring the municipal services ran smoothly, long before anyone invented bureaucracy. The development of the polis, the independent city-state, is a major historical fact that defines classical Greek civilization. These self-governing entities, often centered around a reliable water source, fostered unique political systems, philosophical schools, and artistic traditions. The consistent availability of water, made possible by Eurybia's initial interventions, was a non-negotiable prerequisite for their existence and growth. Imagine trying to run a democracy without a functional plumbing system. It simply wouldn't work. Here's a beautifully quiet and often overlooked cultural tidbit. In many ancient Greek homes, particularly in the courtyards or near a well, there would be a small, terracotta figurine of a household deity or a minor nature spirit, sometimes deliberately placed so that water would drip onto it, or it would be periodically washed with fresh water. This was a subtle gesture of reverence, a quiet acknowledgement of the life-sustaining elements that allowed their homes to thrive, a direct connection to the unseen forces that provided their daily needs. It's like leaving a little thank you note to your plumbing for not springing a leak, but with more clay and spiritual intent. While Athena, goddess of wisdom and cities, would later be revered as the patron of many polis, and Dionysus might inspire their festivals, Eurybia's influence remained at a deeper, more fundamental level. The reliable provision of water, the stable ground beneath the city walls, the steady flow that enabled all urban enterprise. She was the quiet guarantor of infrastructure, the silent force ensuring that the foundations of civilization held firm. She was the original building inspector, but without the clipboard and the disapproving gaze. You might notice the subtle hum of human interaction, the quiet negotiations in the marketplace, the measured discussions in public assemblies, the gentle sounds of craftsmen at work. Even amidst this growing human complexity, there's an underlying order, a rhythm that echoes the ancient peace instilled in the world. It's a testament to the fact that even the most bustling human endeavors ultimately rely on the foundational tranquility of the natural world. Historians, in attempting to understand the transition from the chaotic, primeval world to the ordered human societies, often face the challenge of understanding how abstract, foundational deities like Eurybia gradually receded from overt worship. Was it a conscious shift in focus, a natural forgetting as daily life became more complex, or perhaps a deliberate act of narrative shaping by later poets and priests? The reasons remain as layered and intricate as the ancient city ruins themselves, revealing hints but seldom definitive answers. The air around you now carries the crisp, clean scent of high mountains and distant, snow-fed peaks, mingling with the subtle, almost imperceptible tang of timeless rock and thin atmosphere. The light has become remarkably clear and bright, though still without the harsh glare of a modern day. It's the kind of light that illuminates every distant peak and every winding valley with a serene precision, inviting a profound sense of quiet awe. You find yourself drifting above the rugged, majestic mountain ranges of ancient Greece, the very spine of the land, where the most pristine waters of Eurybia's influence still echo in the silent heights. It's the smell of pure elemental calm, the kind that makes your mind feel utterly unburdened. You could probably just float here forever, or at least until the next ice age. You observe the sources of the great rivers, tiny trickles emerging from snowmelt and hidden springs high in the slopes, gathering strength as they descend. These are the infant waters, pure and unsullied, the very genesis of the mighty currents that nourish the world below. Their nascent energy, though contained and directed, still carries a faint echo of the primordial exuberance Eurybia once so patiently soothed. It's a reminder that even the most powerful forces begin with a single, humble drop, guided by an ancient hand. The mountains themselves, seemingly inert, are constantly shaped by these waters, a testament to the slow, relentless power of erosion, a process that relies entirely on consistent flow. The mountains themselves, while often seen as obstacles, were also vital to Greek life, providing natural defenses, timber, and the very sources of their life-giving rivers. Orography, the study of mountains, was implicitly understood by the Greeks, who revered these towering peaks as dwelling places of gods and nymphs. The annual snowmelt and consistent rainfall that fed the springs and rivers of these mountains were crucial for maintaining the water supply for the entire peninsula. It's almost as if the mountains were the world's original giant. Silent water towers, perpetually replenished and distributing their liquid bounty. Here's a rather chilling, yet deeply significant, cultural tidbit. In some very ancient Greek mountain cults, particularly those dedicated to obscure deities of springs or mountain peaks, there were rituals involving leaving small, votive offerings of carved wood or stone at the highest accessible spring. These were often prayers for abundant water, or perhaps even subtle acknowledgments of the mountain's immense, silent power. Sometimes, these offerings were left in places so remote, they would only be found millennia later by very surprised archaeologists. Imagine hiking for hours just to leave a little wooden bird on a rock. Dedication, truly. While Zeus might sit atop Mount Olympus, hurling his dramatic thunderbolts, Eurybia's influence remained interwoven with the quiet, fundamental processes of the mountains. The steady formation of springs, the predictable melting of snows, the channeling of countless streams into powerful rivers. She ensured the mountain's hydrological balance, the unseen, uncelebrated work that made the dramatic displays of the Olympians even possible. She was the original cloud seeder, but with significantly less fanfare and no visible plains. You might notice the subtle, vibrant green of high-altitude flora clinging to the rocky slopes, nurtured by the pristine mountain water. Small, agile creatures dart among the crags, their lives intimately tied to the purity of these untouched springs. Even in these seemingly desolate heights, life flourishes, sustained by the fundamental processes Eurybia had so patiently brought into harmony. It's a testament to the pervasive, enduring power of quiet stability. Historians often find the study of these most ancient, primordial deities particularly challenging due to the scarcity of direct textual evidence. Were they ever actively worshipped in the same way as the Olympians, or were they more abstract concepts, forces of nature rather than anthropomorphic beings? The answers are as elusive as the high mountain mists, sometimes revealing a fleeting glimpse of truth, only to wrap themselves in mystery once more. The air around you now feels subtly cooler still, carrying the faint, clean scent of dry, sun-baked earth and the distant, almost ghostly aroma of ancient ruins. The light, while bright, takes on a muted, almost melancholic quality, like the light filtering through the dust motes in a very old, forgotten temple. You find yourself drifting over the remnants of great classical Greek civilizations, their marble structures weathered by millennia, their bustling marketplaces long silenced. It's the smell of history itself, of time moving on, leaving behind echoes of former glory. And yes, it smells vaguely like very old dust, which is surprisingly peaceful. You observe the silent cities below, their foundations still rooted in the land, their layouts still echoing the wisdom of the ancient rivers. The grand aqueducts, built by human hands, still stand as testaments to the enduring need for water, channeling the flow from distant mountains to where people once lived. Even in decline, these structures speak to the fundamental importance of reliable water access, a legacy stretching back to Eurybia's earliest lullabies. Humans, in their ingenuity, built upon the stable foundation she provided, perhaps without ever fully recognizing the primal force that made it all possible. It's like living in a house with excellent plumbing and never once thanking the original architect. The decline and eventual fall of many ancient Greek city-states were complex processes, but environmental factors, including shifts in climate and water management challenges, certainly played a significant role. Droughts, overforestation leading to erosion, and the silting of harbors could all cripple a polis. While Eurybia had ensured the primordial stability, human intervention and natural shifts over millennia introduced new variables. Her song, so potent in the beginning, couldn't prevent the consequences of poor human choices or the subtle shifts of geological time. Her job was to establish harmony, not to micromanage every subsequent human folly. Here's a poignant and somewhat overlooked cultural tidbit. In the later periods of Greek history, as city-states faced decline, some philosophers and poets would speak of a lost harmony with nature, an idealized past when the world seemed more benign and predictable. While they rarely invoked specific primordial deities by name, this yearning for a world in balance subtly echoed the earlier, more profound connection to foundational forces like Eurybia, whose presence once ensured such tranquility. It's a wistful thought, a longing for a cosmic quietude that perhaps only existed in the deepest, most ancient memories. While the Olympian gods continued to be worshipped through these periods of rise and fall, their narratives often centered on human drama, war, and politics. The quiet foundational deities like Eurybia faded even further into the background of human consciousness. Their roles seemingly fulfilled were simply taken for granted. Their presence became more of an ambient hum, less a direct invocation. She was the original background music, so subtle you forgot it was even there. You might notice the soft whisper of the wind through the crumbling columns, carrying dust from distant fields. The occasional chirp of a bird or the rustle of a small lizard are the only sounds in these places once filled with human clamor. Even in their silence, these ruins speak of enduring principles, the need for water, for stable ground, for the quiet rhythms of life. These are the echoes of Eurybia's legacy, persistent even in the absence of her name. Historians, sifting through the layers of time, often find it challenging to distinguish between the truly mythical and the symbolic representations of natural processes in these ancient narratives. Was Eurybia a distinct goddess, or was she the personification of the concept of wide-flowing water and broad calm? The truth likely lies in a blend of both, a reflection of how early humans understood and interacted with the fundamental forces of their world. It's a question that continues to resonate in the quiet halls of academic inquiry, much like the wind through these ancient stones. The air around you now carries the subtle, complex scent of the modern world, a faint blend of ozone, distant traffic, and the persistent, though often unnoticed, aroma of treated water. The light, while still soft and diffused, has a distinctly artificial quality, like the ambient glow from countless screens and electric lamps filtering through a pervasive, yet gentle, haze. You find yourself drifting over the contemporary landscape, a world teeming with human activity, crisscrossed by roads and wires, a vibrant, ceaseless hum of technological life. It's the smell of human endeavor on a grand scale, relentless and ever-present. And, if you listen very carefully, it smells faintly of coffee, which is ironic, given our goal here. You observe the sprawling cities of today, colossal monuments to human ingenuity and resourcefulness. Look at the intricate networks of pipes and conduits, the hidden arteries that bring water from distant reservoirs to every home, every office, every factory. The rivers, once the sole source, are now often contained, diverted, or even reversed in their flow by massive engineering projects. Yet, even with all our technological prowess, the fundamental need for water remains, a constant, undeniable demand that traces its lineage back to the consistent, reliable flows established by Eurybia. We've certainly complicated things, but the basics are still there, humming along thanks to ancient forces. This reliance on sophisticated water infrastructure, from ancient aqueducts to modern dams and purification plants, is a major historical fact that underscores human civilization's enduring dependence on managed water resources. Cities of millions cannot exist without consistent, clean water. While we boast about our complex systems, the underlying principle of a controlled and predictable water supply, initially set in motion by primordial forces, remains unchanged. It's almost as if Eurybia, in her infinite patience, merely provided the original stable platform, and we've just been building increasingly elaborate and sometimes precarious structures on top of it. Here's a curious, slightly paradoxical cultural tidbit from our own time. Despite living in an age of unprecedented access to clean, potable water with the mere twist of a tap, many people now purchase bottled water, often transported from distant, pure sources. It's a strange return to a reverence for natural, untouched water, even when perfectly good. Treated water is readily available. It's a subtle, almost unconscious yearning for that primordial purity, that inherent goodness that Eurybia once instilled in the world's waters. A faint echo of a time when water was truly a divine gift, not just a utility bill. While we now largely attribute water management to engineers, hydrologists, and municipal departments, the enduring, unacknowledged influence of Eurybia persists in the very predictability of the water cycle. The rain that falls, the snow that melts, the rivers that flow, the groundwater that replenishes. She is the silent, fundamental constant in our complex equations, the one who ensures the basic elements are still fundamentally cooperative. She's the cosmic background noise of the water system, so ubiquitous you simply filter it out. You might notice the subtle, almost rhythmic hum of distant hydroelectric dams, converting the power of flowing water into electricity, or the quiet whir of purification plants, meticulously cleaning and treating the water before it reaches your faucet. Even these technological marvels, designed to harness or refine water, rely on its consistent presence and its fundamental properties that were shaped in the earliest eons. It's a grand dance between ancient principles and modern innovation. Historians, when looking at the long arc of human civilization, often grapple with the question of how humanity's relationship with the natural world has evolved. Have we truly conquered nature, or have we simply forgotten the subtle, fundamental forces that still underpin our existence? The fading of deities like Eurybia from collective consciousness might be seen as a symptom of this forgetfulness, a narrative casualty of our technological ascendancy, leaving her influence to operate quietly, profoundly, and almost entirely unacknowledged. The air around you now feels infinitesimally lighter, almost imperceptible, carrying a faint, clean scent of pure atmosphere, devoid of the world's myriad complexities. The light, having reached its brightest, is now beginning a slow, almost imperceptible fade, not into darkness, but into a deeper, more profound softness, like the final, lingering glow of twilight. You find yourself drifting higher, away from the specific details of the human world, towards a more abstract, overarching view of the planet itself. It's the smell of cosmic scale, vast and encompassing, a scent that invites profound quietude. You could probably write an entire doctoral thesis on the sheer peacefulness of it all, if you weren't so delightfully drowsy. You look down upon the earth, a magnificent blue marble swirling with clouds, its continents etched with the ancient lines of rivers and coastlines, the very interconnectedness of its oceans, the global water cycle, the patient movement of its tectonic plates. All these fundamental processes continue, utterly indifferent to the human dramas playing out on its surface. This is Eurybia's true, ultimate domain, the fundamental, enduring, and often unacknowledged stability of the planet's systems. She is the quiet hum of existence itself, the constant that underpins all variables. She's the cosmic equivalent of a perfectly designed operating system, running flawlessly in the background, allowing all the applications to function. The Earth's hydrological cycle, the continuous movement of water on, above, and below the surface of the Earth, is a major scientific fact that mirrors the mythological understanding of water as a pervasive, circulating force. From evaporation to condensation, precipitation, and runoff, water constantly recycles itself, driving weather patterns, shaping landscapes, and sustaining all life. This ceaseless, predictable cycle, a testament to the fundamental order instilled in the earliest eons, is the modern scientific equivalent of Eurybia's ancient song. Here's a somewhat ethereal, yet profoundly beautiful cultural tidbit. In various spiritual traditions across the globe, not just Greek, water is often seen as a symbol of purity, cleansing, and renewal. Baptism, ritual washing, and the offering of water in ceremonies all point to an innate, collective human understanding of water's profound life-giving and transformative power. This universal reverence for water, persisting across cultures and millennia, is perhaps the deepest, most enduring echo of that primordial peace and abundance that Eurybia helped to cultivate. It's like a collective, subconscious memory of a time when water was simply ... perfect. While modern science dissects these processes into physics, chemistry, and biology, the underlying harmony, the gentle predictability that makes all life possible, remains a profound mystery. Eurybia, the forgotten goddess, embodied that mystery, that quiet, fundamental order that allowed the chaotic primordial soup to coalesce into a functioning, thriving world. She is the quiet dignity of the planet itself, the one who just keeps the cosmic gears turning without ever asking for a parade. You might notice the subtle, persistent swirl of clouds forming and dissipating over oceans and land masses, releasing their life-giving moisture in a constant cycle. Or the slow, inexorable drift of continents across the planet's surface, a geological dance that spans millions of years. These are the vast, patient movements of the Earth, occurring at speeds imperceptible to human eyes, yet profoundly shaping the world we know. They are the grand, slow rhythm of existence, a rhythm rooted in ancient calm. Historians, scientists, and philosophers alike continue to grapple with the grand narratives of creation and the origins of order in the universe. Was there an initial song that brought harmony to chaos, or was it a gradual, emergent process of self-organization? The answers, perhaps, lie beyond the realm of definitive proof, residing instead in the quiet contemplation of the world's enduring beauty and its profound underlying tranquility. The air around you is now almost entirely still, incredibly pure, carrying only the faintest echo of ozone, a whisper from the outer reaches of the atmosphere. The light has softened to an exquisite, almost imperceptible shimmer, like the last lingering glow of a distant nebula. You find yourself suspended in a timeless void, looking back at the blue marble of Earth, a jewel hanging in the vast quietude of space. From this vantage, the intricate dance of its ecosystems, the flow of its mighty currents, the very breath of its atmosphere, all appear as one unified, incredibly patient system. It's the smell of absolute, unburdened peace, the kind that makes your consciousness feel vast and limitless. You could definitely stay here for a while, perhaps for several millennia, before anyone even thought about sending you a reminder. You observe the planet as a whole, a self-regulating entity, its cycles of water, carbon, and nitrogen spinning in an eternal, elegant ballet. The profound, continuous movement of its oceans, the steady replenishment of its clouds, the ceaseless flow of its rivers into the great seas. These are the enduring processes that persist, regardless of human activity. This is the ultimate testament to Eurybia's primordial influence, now so deeply embedded in the planetary mechanics that it's simply part of the physics, the fundamental given that makes life possible. She is no longer just a force. She is woven into the very fabric of how a planet quietly breathes and sustains itself. The Earth's geophysical stability, its remarkably consistent axial tilt, its predictable orbit, and the delicate balance of its atmospheric composition are major scientific facts that allow for the sustained existence of complex life. While seemingly separate from water, these fundamental planetary conditions are inextricably linked to the long-term hydrological cycle and the consistent distribution of water across the globe. Without such stability, the rivers would not flow, the seas would not hold their bounds, and the nurturing balance would simply unravel. It's almost as if the very universe itself decided to take a deep, calming breath early on and has been holding it ever since. Here's a wonderfully abstract, almost philosophical cultural tidbit. In many ancient cosmologies, not just Greek, the initial act of creation often involved separating the chaotic, undifferentiated elements into distinct, ordered forms. This process of establishing boundaries and rhythms was seen as fundamental to bringing forth life. Eurybia, by calming the unruly waters and establishing their wide, predictable flows, performed a similar, quiet act of cosmic ordering. Her song was the original organizational chart for planetary fluid dynamics, ensuring everything eventually found its proper place. While modern cosmology and physics describe the universe in terms of forces, fields, and particles, the ancient concept of a foundational harmony or ordering principle resonates with the subtle balance observed in planetary systems. Eurybia, the forgotten goddess, represents that initial, patient imposition of order upon the formless, the quiet power that made the world habitable. She is the silent, efficient engineer of primordial calm, the one who ensured that the universe didn't just explode into an even bigger mess. You might notice the faint, almost rhythmic pulse of solar radiation reaching the planet, driving its weather systems and ultimately fueling the hydrological cycle. Or the slow, majestic rotation of the Earth on its axis, creating the gentle ebb and flow of day and night. These are the vast cosmic rhythms that underpin all life, rhythms that ultimately rely on the planet's fundamental stability, a stability nurtured in the deep past. They are the grand silent clockwork of existence, ticking away with profound indifference and grace. Historians and philosophers alike continue to ponder the origins of order and complexity in the universe. Was there a prime mover, a conscious will, or simply the inherent properties of matter unfolding in predictable ways? The exact source of this foundational harmony remains a topic of endless fascination and scholarly uncertainty, a question as vast and deep as the cosmic void itself. Perhaps in the deepest stillness, the answer lies not in words, but in the quiet, persistent hum of existence. You are now floating in a space beyond time and specific location, a realm of pure, unadulterated quiet. The light has softened to an almost non-existent glow, a gentle whisper of illumination that soothes rather than clarifies. The air itself feels like pure stillness, a comforting, all-encompassing absence of disturbance. All the scents of the world, the earthy rivers, the salty seas, the blooming forests, the modern cities have blended into a single profound aroma of peace, a fragrance of fundamental calm that permeates your very being. You have journeyed through eons, witnessed the birth of rivers, the rise of oceans, the shaping of continents, and the unfolding of civilizations, all against the backdrop of a quiet, persistent influence. You've seen how the grand, dramatic myths emerged from a world made stable by unseen hands, how the bustling narratives of human history built upon a foundation of elemental tranquility. The forgotten goddess, Eurybia, who sang rivers to sleep, now fades not into oblivion, but into the very fabric of that fundamental quietude. Her song, no longer a distinct melody, has become the silence itself, the deep, abiding peace that underlies all existence. Her legacy is not in grand temples or epic poems, but in every drop of water that falls as rain, every river that flows steadily to the sea, every ocean that cradles the continents in its vast embrace. It is in the very predictability of the seasons, the reliable return of the tides, the gentle hum of a world that consistently sustains life. She is the quiet dignity of the planet, the enduring, uncelebrated force that ensures the cosmic rhythm continues, steady and true. Her work was simply too fundamental, too perfect, to ever truly be noticed by the bustling, drama-seeking minds of later ages. It's the ultimate quiet achievement, the ultimate, truly undisturbed rest. Now, as your journey through her ancient, calming influence draws to its close, allow yourself to drift deeper. Let the residual hum of the rivers, the gentle swell of the ancient seas, and the profound quiet of the earth settle within you. Feel your breath slow, gentle, and even, echoing the serene rhythms of the early world. Let your thoughts unfurl and drift away, like wisps of mist over a tranquil lake at dawn. The images of this ancient world, its soft light and pervasive calm, begin to recede, dissolving into the peaceful darkness behind your eyelids. There is only the quiet, the stillness, the comforting weight of profound rest.